Harvey Mudd's machine shop spaces are located in the lower level of the Galileo complex on campus, and I'm going to take you for a walkthrough in our student metalworking shop as well as our student wood shop. So when users approach the shop, they're reminded that safety glasses are required at all times, and then there are some pertinent information posted about using the shop on the exterior doors. So as we come into the shop, so users know that safety glasses are required at all times while in the shop. The minimum barrier of entry for accessing and using the tools in the machine shop is to pass with a score of 60 out of 64 questions or better of a shop safety quiz that's available for all of our users. And all users, regardless of class year or student, faculty, or staff status, have to pass that quiz. The quiz is valid for access for 1 year, at which point you must retake the quiz to continue to access the machine shops. So in the process of taking that quiz, they're introduced to the types of machines that are used in the machine shop, the affiliated safety hazards that those machines pose, as well as the rules for being in the shop. So the rules for being in the shop that are in force at all times is that training is required for each of the individual machines. The safety quiz does not prepare any one person to be able to proficiently use the machines. It is just a safety introduction, and training is performed on each machine after that. Users are reminded that they're not allowed to remove any of the protective guards from the machines. Safety glasses at all time. Jewelry has to be removed from fingers and wrists, things like rings and bracelets. Long hair tied back. No open-toed shoes are allowed, and at all times while using equipment, there must be 2 people present in the shop, so no one is allowed to use the shop unattended. The shop has a team of approximately 40 student workers called the shop proctors, who are the front-facing people that users will interact with when they come into the shop. So when users come into the machine shop, they will find one of the shop proctors on duty, able to answer their questions. The shop proctor will check their ID card against the database that the shop maintains of users who have successfully passed the safety quiz within the past year. And then they will assist the user finding tools and material and machines that they need to work on their projects. So in both the wood and the metal shops, there are safety equipment like first aid kits, fire extinguishers, and earplugs, which the shop users are instructed at the location of and that they're available for their use. All the shop users are given 1 pair of safety glasses when they go through initial training that they're supposed to hold on to, and then if they need additional pairs, we have additional pairs either during normal times when COVID precautions are not in place that would be used as loaner pairs, or for now students have to pay a nominal fee for an additional pair in order to come in and use the shop if they've lost or broken theirs. So in the machine shops are assorted tools and measurement and inspection equipment that they may need to use during the course of working on their projects. I'm going to briefly walk you through the metal shop of the types of tools that are here. This is a horizontal bandsaw, which is used for cutting down long pieces of material for use on other machines. We have an array of vertical milling machines. These machines are able to be operated manually or with the assistance of computer control called CNC. So we have 5 milling machines that are used for teaching and then open use for when students are here. In the middle of the room is an assortment of sheet metal working tools that are used for working with thin, usually metal. So the workflow for the sheet metal working tools is large sheets would be placed in this shear, which is kind of like a big paper cutter for cutting the pieces into smaller, more manageable chunks. This machine is called a notcher. It's used for cutting the corners out of a piece of sheet so that you could fold it up into a box. We have a small arbor press for pressing material together or putting impressions or imprints on parts. This is a hole punch that's used for putting known diameter holes within a sheet metal workpiece, like a very large version of a paper hole punch. And then we also have a bending brake that is used for folding up the edges or components of a sheet metal part to do things like make boxes. And then we have an electric resistance spot welder for attaching multiple pieces of thin material to each other. As we go finish along the back corner of the room, there are two small electric furnaces. These are used for heat treating materials, and they're located underneath a intake duct that provides ventilation for any fumes or things that would be produced from putting materials into the hot kilns. And the air duct is always on regardless of whether the kilns are on. It is part of the exhaust air ventilation for the room. So these are always ventilated regardless of if something is inside of them. Next to the kilns is a computer-controlled lathe, which is a machine used for making cylindrical or round parts. And then along the front wall of the room is an assortment of manual lathes, which are used in conjunction with the milling machines to make different shaped metal parts. So the lathes produce parts which are round or circularly symmetric, and the milling machines on the other side of the room are used for making parts which are rectangular or angular or have some other geometry in the XY plane. So as we move from the student metal shop and go down the hallway to the wood shop, when a user is moving either between the shops or needs to use one or the other, the shop proctor who's on duty would be familiar and aware of who is in which space and which tools that they're going to be using so that they can keep track of any of the particular hazards. So the student employees will be moving back and forth between the two shops. So most of the tools in the wood shop are used for cutting down and shaping wood products. So as we start going in the room, there is a panel saw, which is used for cutting down large sheets of material like plywood, which you would get at the hardware store, into more manageable sized pieces. There is a computer-controlled router table, which is used for putting precision shapes into the tops of parts which are clamped to the table. We have a wood cutting table saw, which is again used for cutting down pieces of material into smaller, more manageable sizes. And this machine would be used if a particular part or project wouldn't fit into one of the other saws. Along the back wall, we have an assortment of sanders. The spindle sander is used for removing or polishing material on the inside of an opening or around a corner. And the belt sander is used for removing material along the edge surfaces of a part which are placed against the sanding belt. Then next to those are two vertical bandsaws, and the vertical bandsaws, when fitted with the correct blade, can also cut metal in addition to wood. So depending on what the project is working on, these machines are capable of working with metal. These machines would be used on a part which is too small to put into the larger saws, or which needs to have more precision shapes cut into it, like angles or curves or things like that. In the middle of the room is a contractor grade thickness planer, and pieces of material are fed through the planer, and a rotating blade removes material from the top and reduces the thickness of the part. This is another smaller saw that is called a scroll saw, which has an even smaller blade than the band saws do for performing very precision work or intricate cutouts or patterns. This jointer is used in conjunction with the planer to prepare precision pieces of lumber, usually for structures or things like cabinetry where tight fits between adjacent parts are needed. And the jointer works by feeding the workpiece through this guard, which would open the guard to expose the workpiece to a rotating blade which cuts material off the bottom of the workpiece. Next to the jointer is another small spindle sander, which functions identically to the large one. It's just in a more portable size and is able to work on smaller workpieces. And then along the back wall are two wood turning lathes, which are used for making things like bowls or cups or ornamental shafts and round parts out of wood. In between the wood lathes is a small router table, which is used for putting smooth corners on the edges of workpieces. And then, like the metal shop, there is an assortment of tools and measuring equipment and hand and some small power tools, as well as an assortment of raw material which users may go through if they have not provided their own material to work on a project.